intriguing discussions that we are so glad to share it with you today. So feminism movement, gender rights, and Islamic perspectives on them. So, of course, and the focal points of this topic are how Islamic conservatism has infiltrated the policy-making process and public discourse on gender and sexuality and its impact to the struggle for gender equality and women's rights in Indonesia. So it examines how Muslim women produce counter-discourse against feminism to overcome and outlaw adultery and homosexuality issues, and to oppose the ratification for sexual violence bill. So there is still less research that exposing the counter discourse against Islamic feminism produced by Muslim women themselves. Hence, this study captures a conservative backlash on Islam and gender in contemporary Indonesia's public sphere. So our speakers today is Mas Afifur Rahman Sya'roni. So he is currently a lecturer at Department of Religious Studies, Faculty of Usuluddin and Islamic Thought, UIN Sunan Kalijaga. He obtained his MA degree in Religious Studies at CRCS in 2019, and he has been involved in several research projects at CRCS on Islamist mobilization and at ICRS on faith-based polarization. And he was also an intern researcher at the Institute for Policy Analysis of Conflict, or IPAC Jakarta, in 2021. And among his recent publication is Muslim Women Against Feminism, which we're going to discuss today. And also, he's our CEO of Kopi Mak Jege. Yeah. So, without any further ado, please welcome Mas Afif. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, thank you very much for coming. I'm really happy today because this is a very special occasion for me. I'm really happy. Again, thank you for CRCS and ICRS for organizing this event, and also who has invited me to speak or present my research. Yeah, I'm really happy to be back here to this beautiful and really supportive, excellent master program. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So basically, I will be presenting about my research. Actually, this is it's very long research that I was working for my master thesis here at CRCS actually, and the title of the presentation is Muslim Women Against Feminism. So I will be talking about one of the anti-feminist movement in Indonesia. It's called AILA, or the Family Love Alliance, and it's been recently opposing the eradication sexual violence bill in Indonesia. I think it started in 2016. Okay, I think it's better to stand up, right? Yes. Because I'm a bit nervous. Okay, so basically my presentation is based on my recent publications. So if you want to read, yeah, hopefully you want to read my publication. It has been published in, I think, 2 months ago in Transregional and National Studies of Southeast Asia at Cambridge University Press. So my presentation will be basically based on this publication. Okay, let me begin with introduction. So on December 2017, women activists from Aliansi Cinta Keluarga, or they call themselves as AILA, the Family Love Alliance, they went to the Constitutional Court to, revise the scope of immoral crime on the Penal Code, particularly on Article 284 and 285 and also 292. They wanted to outlaw adultery and homosexuality as immoral offense. So they want to punish because based on the existing legal system in Indonesia, it's still legal. So they want to giving punishment for consensual sex outside marriage and also homosexuality. Okay, of course, there are anti-feminist movement during the struggle for the passing of the RUU PKS, rancangan undang-undang penghapusan kekerasan seksual, or we can call it the anti-sexual violence bill. They are the front line to oppose or reject this bill, because from their perspective, the bill, instead of saving women from sexual violence, the bills will imperil the function of family and also threatens the nation. It's against Islamic morality and so on and so forth. So, but even though they finally failed, because the bill has been passed, I think last year on April 2022. Many researchers and analysts consider this movement as a challenge to the struggle for, feminist advocacies and also feminist activism. So, my study wants to capture this movement as a conservative backlash against feminist ideas and also feminist advocacies in contemporary Indonesia. So my concern or my focus is about how do they frame their contention against the bill, especially how do they produce a counter-discourse against feminism, and probably what is the implications of this anti-feminist movement to the struggle and the ideas of feminism and also feminist advocacies and gender equality more generally. Okay, let me give some brief introduction to the background. Okay, if we talk about gender issues in Indonesia's public spheres, it's always controversial. It's always controversial issues. There are many numerous research talking about this. For example, many scholars have argued that democratizations and also Islamization have fostered the involvement of women in the public sphere. For example, one of the platforms through which women's organization emerged is religious organization. For example, Nahdlatul Ulama has its swings organizations such as Fatayat, for example, and also Muhammadiyah also has its swing women organization like the Aisyah, and many other organizations, whether it is secular or religious-based organization that advocate or struggle for gender equality and also women's rights. In this context, Islam, of course, plays a significant role that contributes to the struggle for both gender equality and also the construction of piety and the establishment of more Islamic society. In this context, Islam facilitates women's agency to argue for gender equality or even against gender equality. If we see, for example, some women-based Islamic organization like Fahmina or Rahima, if you familiar with it. For example, they struggle for gender equality from the perspective of Islamic worldview and also from the perspective of Islamic theology. And more recently, we have Pupi, Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia, or Women Ulama Indonesian Congress. So I think it is Pupi now serving as the biggest umbrella for Muslim women-based Islamic feminism. But also Islam also facilitates the construction of piety or the aspiration to have like more rigid and formalized Islamic Sharia, such the act of failing or to govern sexual morality and so on and so forth. Also in this context, the female body has become a battleground. So it is contested. Women's body always matters, you know, whether they wear veil or they don't wear veil, it's become still controversial. Women's always wrong. Yeah. It has become a battleground in which the issue of morality and the boundaries between the private and the public are fiercely contested in the public sphere. So it involves, you know, maybe we can say the liberal Muslims and also the conservative Muslim. They are debating each other. They are contesting each other. Yeah, to define what is the scope or the boundaries. What is the private? What is the public? Should women wear the veil? I think for after the Reformation, it can be seen from the several issues that has been controversial after the Reformation, such as the issue of female leadership. You know, can women become president, for example, during the initial presidency of Megawati, for example, and also the issue of polygamy and the enforcement of Sharia-inspired local bylaws or Perda Sharia. Yeah, because many NGOs and also women's activists criticize this because it always women who becomes the victim of this Perda Sharia. And also the anti-pornography bill, you know, it was also a controversial issue. What can be implied from this context here? So the question of religious interpretations and the politics of morality have always been the salient feature of this debate. So it always involved religious interpretations and also the question of morality. Okay, now we have the new or recent controversies on gender issues, namely the anti-sexual violence bill. So the newly passed sexual violence eradication bill sparked mass demonstration by feminist and women rights group as proponents and conservative Islamic group as opponents. So I think it takes 10 years to be passed. I think it was started in 2012 under the proposal of the National Commission of Women's Rights, or the Komnas Perempuan, yeah, because according to their perspective as the proponents, the prevailing legal system in Indonesia was not sufficient enough to protect women from sexual violence, particularly according to the victims' violence. Well, according to the opponent, this bill is against the nation morality, the family, as I should explain later. One thing that is important is explicit in the bill's formulation is the perspective of feminist legal theory. If we read the draft of the bill, it is mentioned that the bill was using feminist legal theory and also the concept of sexual consent. So if we read the definition of sexual violence within the bill and also the forms of sexual violence in the bill, it is only the sexual violence which is based on the idea of consent, such as rape or forced prostitution or forced abortion, that is prohibited. So as a contemporary Indonesian counter-movement against feminism, Ayla women activists mobilized specifically in response to this bill. anti-feminism discourse is central in Ayla's rhetoric against the sexual violence eradication bill. So that's why I would like to contextualize Ayla's anti-feminist discourse in the context of this opposition to the bill. Okay, next I will explain, I will give a brief short bio of Ayla. So basically it established in 2013, but yet it's officially launched in February 2014. Their first public appearance is on, I think, 2014, when they mobilized and struggled for outlawing adultery in the Constitutional Court, but they have gained more attention during their opposition to, to stop the passing of RUU PKS. It is the coalition, Ayla is the coalition of Islamic organizations and communities that have a shared concern on the enforcement of Islamic morality. So the focus of this organization is addressing, moral issues that they find encroaching to the traditional concept of women and also family and also sexuality. Their members are Muslim women based in Jakarta. They are middle class and well-educated background. Yeah, some of them are lecturers, some of them are also Muslim preachers. Yeah, they are anti-feminist. In the name of protecting women, focusing on moral issues they find to be encroaching the traditional concept of family, women, and sexuality. In terms of gender ideology, they uphold Islamic conservative views on women, gender, family, and sexuality. For example, men should be breadwinners, and women are subject to nurturing children. For example, gender equality is bullshit. For example, Of course, they struggle for gender politics. They try to infiltrate to public policy and also public discourse and gender sexuality. According to them, Indonesia's laws, regulation, and policies on gender sexuality should cohere with cultural and local wisdom, and also Eastern custom, and also Islam as the majority religion of Indonesia. So from this background, I think it is clear that they are struggling for the enforcement of Islamic morality. So they have published some books. Delusi kesetaraan gender. So gender equality is something delusional. And this is the picture when they are struggling for, stopping the RUU PKS. Okay, the first thing that they are arguing against feminism is because feminism against religious morality. According to their views, feminism justifies the practice of same-sex relationship and consensual sex outside marriage through feminism's concept of gender equality, sexual orientation, and also gender identity and expression. So this, I quote directly from my informant. It can be concluded that the meaning of gender, a socially constructed category, contains value, ideology, ambition, and interest of certain groups. The concept of gender as socially constructed category does not mean to see women as opposed to men who are more suitable to bear, nurture, and care for children. So according to them, the construction of gender is not based on, contextual matters or sociological matters. It's not constructed, but it has been determined through God's revelation, through the Quran, for example. Feminism is also framed as a threat to the Islamic conception of women's nature. So yeah, the idea of kodrat wanita, women's nature or women's biological nature that determines women's status and roles in the public, it's important. It can be concluded that the meaning of gender as a socially constructed category contains value. Yeah. So what happens when they argue against the bill? So according to them, a definition of sexual violence within the bill is against morality. So the definition of sexual violence in the RUU PKS, according to them, it's against morality because the definition is based on the idea of sexual consent. For example, my body, they frame is my body is mine. Women's right to control their own sexuality or to have a consensual sex outside marriage and abortion. Indeed, for the proponents of this bill, the fact that the bill only regulate or govern sexual morality cannot be understood in reverse, because the bill is like specialist. It means that the scope outside the bill is beyond the bill's regulation. But according to them, if the bills only regulates a forced marriage and also abortion, it means that any sexual practices that's based on the concept that is based on consent is allowed. So this the line of reasoning they frame their opposition. So according to them, the RUU PKS has feminist agenda of sexual liberalization, adultery, prostitution, abortion, homosexuality, and so on and so forth, because they are against the bill, which is based on sexual consent. So what do they propose? So instead of sexual violence, they propose the idea of sexual crime, kejahatan seksual, rather than sexual violence, rather than kekerasan seksual, because they want to, extend or make it broader, the scope of sexual violence, to outlaws or to punish consensual sex outside marriage and also the practice of homosexuality. So from this, it is understood that they want to, enforce sexual morality through the state by bringing their agenda through the bill. The second idea that they propose against the bill is feminism against the family. Feminism is framed as a Western liberal force to alienate women from their families. For example, my informant said feminist movement have eventually alienated women from the warmth of the family because women are too busy pursuing careers and competing with men to prove their existence. Then many of them experience alienation, depression, and other psychological problems. This because they are against their instinct and nature as women. So this Professor Ais Sunarti, he is a professor of, I think, at IPB, and she is one of the ILAS advisory board. She said that the feminist paradigm used as the basis for this bill will cause conflict and even increase the potential for sexual violence at the most core level, namely the family or household. This because it eliminates the functional structural paradigm inherent in the values and culture of relation between men and women in Indonesian families and society. This paradigm has already been institutionalized in the Indonesian law on marriage and law on family development. Okay, what is seen from this idea, from this counter-discourse, is family always served as the moral terrain of the religious conservative. This because the politics of morality is profoundly grounded in and articulated through the discourse of religion and family, because the family is deemed as the guardian of religiously public morality. And then in this context, the so-called of ASEAN values, or for example, Eastern values, nilai-nilai ketimuran atau nilai-nilai Asia, are then invented within familial and collectivist social structure considered morally distinct from Western values. So this is Western values, this is ASEAN values. ASEAN values does not know gender equality, for example. So is there such thing as ASEAN values, or is there such thing or Eastern values? That's the question. So, but on the other hand, it also echoes the New Order discourse of family principle. If we read, the history of gender, or the history of women's right in Indonesia during the New Order or Suharto's regime, it has been established the idea of state motherism, ibuisme negara is state ibuism. You can call it state motherism. And also family principle to regulate or to symbolize that women is domestic creature. Okay, and then the idea of women's kodrat or fitrah and harmonious family structure is used to defend women's traditional roles within nuclear family against feminist challenge. So the idea of women's kodrat, because woman has already determined by God, blah blah blah, because it has already, because they have already their own kodrat which determine their status and also roles in the public. So feminist ideas and feminist advocacies are deemed against this women's kodrat. And also the notion of preserving the traditional family reflect their concern about the threats to traditional gender role typically associated with Western secularism. So gender politics and also the struggle for gender equality is considered a threat to the traditional idea of gender and also the family. And in the context of the RUPKS, according to them, threatens the family resilience, because the definition is based on gender-based violence. It's not on based Islamic sexual morality, and also the issue of marital rape, sexual control as a form of sexual violence. Indeed, many Muslims women rights organizations have strongly opposed this idea. For example, KUPI has issued some fatwa to argue for RUPKS. So they also differentiate between Islamic worldview and versus feminist worldview. According to them, Muslim women do not need feminism in order to be empowered. As an alternative, they have to go back to what Islam has prescribed for women, and this what they mean by justice, not equality. It means the superiority of Islam over feminism. They are against feminism because in their view, feminism cannot be dissociated from the Western socio-historical context in which it first emerged. The Christian authoritarianism demeaning to women in the medieval Europe. So what about Islamic feminism? According to them, they oppose also Islamic feminism because in their views, it's just a feminist imposition to deconstruct the established Islamic texts pertaining to women issues. So it's like, Islam liberal, things like that. Islamic superiority, of course, Islam has given justice for women since the beginning of its birth, different from any other religion, particularly the West feminism. So yeah, according to my perspective, it's, it reflects such kind of reverse Orientalism. So it's also essentialized and also to some extent apologetic to understand the Islamic tradition. For example, one of my informants argued that why are there discrimination for women in Islam, for example, because there are lack of faith and knowledge about the true Islam, for example. So it overlooks also my misogyny and also patriarchy within the Islamic tradition. And last is the conclusion. Ayla women activists attempt to enforce conservative values of Islamic sexuality on the state level demonstrate how conservative Islamic groups are increasingly involved in morality projects, using democratic means to achieve their goals by influencing public policies and discourse on gender and sexuality. And Ayla's counter-discourse against feminism is heavily conceptualized through the idea of Islamic morality and the family. For my perspective, this counter-discourse should be set against the ideological battle over gender and sexuality that takes place in contemporary Indonesia's public sphere. This counter-discourse for Ayla women activists serve as a strategic tool in their struggle to enforce sexual morality based on conservative Islamic values and also heterosexual nuclear family and also traditional gender roles. In this ideological battle, to Ayla women activists, the fact that feminism is not monolithic is irrelevant. What mostly matters for them is constructing an ideological image of feminism as a threat to Islamic conception of womanhood, religious morality, and so on. Finally, in the context of Indonesia's democracy, the presence of women's rights movement and the counter movement with their respective competing ideology demonstrating an agonistic plurality to borrow political theories, Chantal Mouffe, an agonistic plurality of worldviews on gender and sexuality. So although the successful passing of RUU PKS may be considered as, the most significant achievement of women's rights movement and also women's rights activists in the post-reformasi era, I think it does not indicate that the voice of conservative Islamic group are silenced. Since the contentious gender politics entails the issue of morality, I think a conservative Islamic group will always have a reason to mobilize, especially in a heated political climate. So I think that's all what I can present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, I believe that we have a lot of things to say in here. So first three. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. From Nanda first, please.
First, I would like to say thank you so much to Mas Afif, who gathers and collected and writing it down to the journal's article how the framing of anti-feminism or anti-feminist movement been writing into articles that deliciously readable and understandable. Because your presentations as something that we're familiar, so familiar about in the advocacies of the organized, like anti-LGBTQ, anti-homosexuality, anti-abortion. And thank you for writing it down to this article. Secondly, I understand that what they call as the Western dichotomic between Western and Asian or Eastern, like that. Since it's quite interesting because this kind of narrative exists in the Western itself. I mean, like in the right U.S. conservatives right now, like the anti-abortions from the U.S. right-wing Christian, maybe white Christians like that, against anti-abortions, anti-gay, in the name of the family, nuclear heterosexuality is still in Western zone, and how it's been adapted and the narrative, re-narrative is but there's a uniquely in Indonesia why the PKS is passed. I see like the feminist movement in Indonesia, they use the reason of family and morality, and there is a feminist movement that essentially rigid hold to the family values, like our scholars from ICRS, Ahmad Abdul Qadir, he write about Qiraah Mubadalah. It's so binary between relation between husband and wife. Well, but the narrative is changes to be more equal and struggle. And like Nur Rafi'ah, she refused to use the term feminism or feminism. Instead, she used keadilan gender Islam. Because feminist is kadung demonizing, and kadung the value itself is quite the same, about justice, about equality, and so on. And this is the unique feminism, Islamic feminism in Indonesia, where they still hold the family values, the sex between marriage, but in the narrative that for equal and for justice, and it's banyak sympathy for neutral Muslim women who confused between what is feminist or what is Islam. Is it bertentangan or same or can be reconcilable? And the Islamic feminist movement, Papa Abdul Qadir, Hussein Muhammad, Morokia, it's this make this counter-narrative and feminist, and the feminist movement itself can be reconciled.
Do you want to answer or
Is it question?
response?
Is it question or
Just like a comment?
response?
Oh, okay, sure, thank you. Oh ya, mbaknya ini dulu. Please.
Okay, thank you so much for your explanation. And well, I was a part of the feminist group in Jogja, and I also understand about how at the beginning and well at the process of the RUU TPKS. And I just wondering about because you also contacted with them with Island. Curious if you also asked them about the roles of family because they reasserted their point. And since in like the most
Perpetrator.
yeah,
Perpetrator.
From the family or even well, this is close people near the victim. It can be from the family, for example, uncle or even grandpa, and etc. Then how they respond to that. Yeah, because it's also their central thing point for that. And the second thing is, what do you think about it? What do you think about Allah? Do you think that they just, for example, live inside their own bubble, since they want to make a bill or even a rules for the whole Indonesian? But as we see, if we just a third of the thing about the family outside of Jabodetabek, there's also different kind of family and how the culture inside or each family in Indonesia or even in each culture, it must be different. And what do you think about them? Is there only hope from their own bubble and not think about how the other people perceive the concept of family? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to respond it directly or?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the good question, but Elsa. Okay. Regarding the roles of family according to Ayla, yeah, the family according to them is very important, but they uphold a traditional concept of family. Man as the leader of the family, women as the mother who are subject to nurturing children, for example, women as the madrasatul ula, as the very first educator for their children. Yeah, but yeah, they are against, they consider feminist ideas of gender equality as a threat to this conception of traditional family. The fact that, yeah, we have already known that many sexual violence, the perpetrators of sexual violence are even our family, right? But according to them, it's not because of that happens. It's not because of power relation, as feminists would argue, right? A power relation. But according to them, yeah, because they lack of morality, they lack of religiosity. So for them to strengthen the role of family is to educate them on to have like a good akhlaq, to have like good religiosity. Yeah, of course it is important, right? For the improvement of the family, for the betterment of the family to to eradicate a sexual violence. But yeah, according to National Commission of Women's Rights, it's not enough. So it happens because yeah, there are unequal power relations. That's why the name is gender-based violence, which is based on gender different, right? And also, what do you think about Ayla? Do they still in their bubbles? Yeah, I think yeah, in this ideological, so this is like an ideological struggle. Yeah, for example, if you follow the argument of your opponents, it means that you are supporting your opponents, right? So that they don't want to follow the argument of the opponents. So that why, yeah, actually they don't oppose the fact that sexual violence is there, but they want to like handle it, to extend it, to outlaw, consensual sex outside marriage. They want to outlaw LGBT sexualities. Yeah, in compare to women's rights movement, I think they are not big enough for my perspective. But yeah, as one of the feature, like other Islamist organization, they can mobilize to raise the psychology of the masses. For example, yeah, this is feminism is against Islam. Yeah. For lay people, it certainly resonates to their psychology. Oh, this is my religion is being treated, so I have to struggle for it. I have to fight, for example. For feminist movement, they always circulate only in the well-educated middle class, and maybe in the urban areas. Yeah, I think it is important to embrace grassroots level for feminists, especially for Islamic feminist movement, to embrace and also to to disseminate or to empower Muslim women, and also maybe Muslim women in the grassroots level. So that's I think it has been started, like Pupi, for example, has started to disseminate their understanding or their policies, their ideas to the Muslims, lay Muslims at the pesantren, for example, at schools, and the Majlis Taklim, for example. Yeah. So that these big ideas, or maybe foreign ideas, quote unquote, can be understood on the grassroots level. Okay, thank you. I think that's all. Hopefully it answers your question.
Okay, next question.
Okay, thank you for your opportunity. I think this question has to start with the last question. In your research finding, are they, the ILAS member, really have the consciousness about protecting women as is one of the mission of advocacy, or they just driven by the religion's value as they are the religious instinct, and moreover we know that those Islamic organization movement has a big influence with our policymaking process, and as Ayla is indirectly of those Islamic movement organization, maybe they try to show their support or state their spirit, but with specific issue on women and family.
Okay. Are they really protecting women?
They have the concept of protecting women from their.
Okay. Yeah. They're really concerned to protect women, actually, but not through what feminist lens or feminist advocacies. For example, many ILAS opponents or feminists has framed that this anti-feminist movement is not really concerned to protecting women by opposing the bills, but what really matters for them is governing morality. So, for example, they differentiate between kejahatan seksual and according to their terms, kejahatan seksual, so sexual crime, and sexual violence. So they propose the idea of kejahatan seksual. So kejahatan seksual, according to them, is not whether the crime is whether the violence is gendered or not, but the violence is against the Islamic law. Whether it is consensual or is not consensual, it is a crime. So it has to be punished. For example, that's the way they think to protect women. Do you get it? Yeah. So the way they think to protect women is, whether is it consensual or not, whether sex practice is consensual or not consensual, that should be punished. That's why women's activists and also feminist activists against their idea, because according to women's rights movement or feminist movement, we cannot regulate or govern any consensual practice, right? Because it's beyond the law. So it's a really private or domestic matters. We cannot. So yeah, I think that's their main concern. Thank you.
Okay, next 3 questions or comments. Okay, Anju, Reza, and Gia. Okay, the Anju first. Oh, and over there. Okay. So Reza, Gia. Okay, Reza first. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Reza from CRCS, where I want to appreciate the work because I think it's not blindly antagonistic against Ayla movement itself, because at first I have worried if the Ayla movement itself is being antagonized, but I see that it's not. So thank you for that. Because I see feminism, I think is not should not be essentialized also, because how gender is formed, how it is constructed in our society should be an ongoing conversation that of but what I'm interested in is what makes them appear in political sphere realm, because we know that its ideological battle, if you want to say, is not new. It's not new. It's already ongoing for quite a long time. But what really enables this movement to start their movement is what I want. Okay, I'm Jeff. I'm from space 2022, like in. I personally reflect that in Indonesia we people love to like identity, like when you are a man but you don't know how to support feminism. Okay, you're patriarchy. So like
people easily like judge by uh, what we mean. Then I agree with your presentation. Like yeah, last semester I had my friends, including Bacha, we do research on the religiosity of non-wearing hijab Muslimah, and we found that many Muslimah who didn't wear hijab, people that them like amoral and non-religious, because like the hijab like the moral standard or religious standard, very normative because there's people citing holy books to judge that okay, you are not religious. So, but we found that every non-wearing hijab Muslim, they have their own interpretation, and we see that it goes beyond maybe the body liberation. They have like the moral standard or moral interpretation from the age. So we see that we can so beyond the binary between the hijab and non-hijab, because I think this is not about hijab. It's about how we live in our everyday life beyond the material religiosity like hijab. So do you think what can we have go to beyond the discussion about the ideological level? Like is because the one organization they're citing, maybe they use the religious resource, which is the Bible of the Holy Book. So we can we start the moral or religious discussion beyond the religion standard? Like when we speak about the morality, when they do something that it doesn't mean that they are feminists. We have like the prejudice. Okay, when you don't wear hijab, you are feminist, but not sometimes it's not about feminists or about the rational idea. It's about how they have their own interpretation relate to their daily practice. I think it is more productive than we claim. Okay, you man, you don't know feminist. Okay, you're part. So sometimes we can do the boundaries. The boundaries maybe eliminate the woman's straight.
Thank you, and comment please.
Well, I have three simple questions.
My goodness.
My first question is, what is the scope of horror that this alien movement understand? Because follow your lecture, the world says about sexual harassment is, but then this movement supported by the majority of the Muslims. And my number three question is very subjective. I'm wondering about your positions, like do you support this movement or not? And it's just well, I don't want to answer the last question. I will do this one. Thank you.
Mas Anju? Okay. There's only three questions from three questioners. Oh, Mas Anju, iya ya. Nanti sesi berikutnya sesi. Oke.
Okay, thank you for all the question. It's really a challenging question. Okay, for the first question from Mas
Reza.
Okay, sorry, Mas Reza. Okay, what makes them appear in this political context? Yeah, I think, most of them are really connected to, some other organizations such as PKS or the Prosperous Justice Party. So they have, from the perspective of social movement theory, they have like, I think, adequate resource. They are connected. They have enough resource mobilization in terms of alliance. They have allied with political parties and also some Muslim think tank organization, philanthropy organization, and also Majelis Ta'lim. They are really well educated. They can read English source of feminist books, for example. And I think, yeah, the issue they are struggling is, yeah, it's worth selling. How to say laku, yeah. It's worth selling for politics. So during ahead to 2019 presidential election, yeah, during 212 Islamist rally, for example, this is one of the issues that the candidate they bring. You know, the PKS allies with Prabowo. For example, there are some narrative: do not vote for the president who are agree with LGBT, for example. So I think that these are the context and also the resource that they have, so that why they can mobilize. Yeah, one of their advisory is Bahtiar Nasir. Do you know it? Yeah, but yeah, Bahtiar Nasir is now very calm because of the government crackdown. Yeah, but before that, during the 212 movement, it's very, yeah, you know, very active. So they have like alliance. They have enough resource to criticize or to disseminate their anti-feminist discourse. So that's why they can attend to public hearings and the parliament to argue against the bill. So that's why I think they can also mobilize their bases on the grassroots, because, you know, like Majelis Ta'lim or Ibu-Ibu Muslimah or Pemuda-Pemuda Hijrah, for example. This message really resonates with their, you know, sense or feeling of religiosity. Okay, my religion is under attack with feminism. Feminism is against Islam. Islam is against feminism, for example. Something to frame, yeah, from the perspective of framing structure, the way movement makes their narrative resonate is important, right? Something, it's very simple. Islam is against feminism, rather than you're arguing, quoting other scholars, for example. Yeah, that's scholarly things. Yeah, in the practical level, or even in the very pragmatic level, we do not need that. Okay. The second question from Mas J.
JR.
GR.
JR.
GR.
GR.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Can we start the discussion beyond religious language? So yeah, this is important. I think this is a big issue. It's, yeah, this is, I don't know how to answer it. It's reminiscent to Pak Zen's class on religion and state. Yeah, can we use like secular reason for public policy, or for arguing in the state level, for example? Yeah, maybe for like liberal, from liberal perspective, like if we, for example, quote John Rawls, we cannot we cannot rely on comprehensive doctrine, to borrow their language, to borrow Rawls' language, comprehensive doctrine. We have to use like public reason, right? But yeah, what is public reason? I think it's also very subjective, and we cannot, you know, crack down or even marginalize religion. Even you are struggling to marginalize religion. Religion is always there. People are still using the language of religion, right? Even in their daily lives, we are eating using religion. We are, when we go to bathroom, for example, we use religion.
Yeah.
So religion is everywhere. So even for this the big issue like gender, of course, they will use like a religious argument. But the main thing is not there. The main thing is how do we like provide, you know, equal and also accommodative space for this subject to have like equal aspiration, to have like equal right to, you know, voicing their argument, voicing their aspiration in this democratic space. We cannot even, you know, marginalize or even crack down. I think it is counterproductive, for example, like cracking down or even using violence to marginalize religious-based argument or religious-based organization. Or even they are anti-democratic, for example. Yeah, maybe Mas Ancu can explain more. I think. Yeah, I think that's my point. We cannot even marginalize or cracking down, stepping aside religion, because religion is always there. Religion is an instinct. Okay, what is from, sorry, Mbak Juwita. Okay, thank you, Mbak Juwita. What is the scope of morality? Yeah, I think it is clear from their perspective. Morality is based on what they understand in their understanding of Islam, right? So what is moral is what Islam has determined the moral. So the morality is based on their understanding of Islam. Maybe for a Western liberal standard, for example, for Western liberal standard, consensual sex is not immoral, right? But for them, it is immoral. Yeah, it's also a very long philosophical debate. Yeah, what is morality? What's the scope of morality? But for their perspective, it is clear that the scope of morality is their understanding of Islam. Yeah, indeed, there are many versions of morality in Islam, because within Islam, there are very diverse interpretation of morality. The second question is this movement supported by majority Muslim today? I would say no. Yeah, I would say no. But it has to do with more research. We don't know actually, but yeah, but I would say no. Because many other Muslims, many other Muslims organizations do not support this movement. But again, because of their frames of narrative can resonate with the psychological of the masses of lay Muslim, so that's why they can mobilize. Yeah, many youngers. Or pemuda hijrah, for example, will support their movement. The last question, do you support this movement? Do you support this movement? Yeah, as a scholar. Yeah, as a scholar. Yeah, as a scholar, I have to, yeah, I have to, yeah, I have to present, yeah, as it is. Yeah, of course, I have like my subjective perception and also my subjective analysis, but yeah, it's very normative. So it's the same. Do you support gender equality or not? So it's the same question actually. Yeah, I support gender equality, gender justice, and so on, etc. So, but as a scholar, of course, I have like to, I cannot demonize. Yeah, I think it's counterproductive to demonize or even say bad things about this movement. So I think that's all. Thank you.
Oke, Mas Anci. Boleh. Mbak Ana boleh banget. Cheers.
Thank you, Cha.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mas Ahmed. I think I would like to continue some of the concerns raised. Can we, my question, Mas Ahmed, basically like how to treat this feminism and Islamic worldview, feminism. Like, why do we bring that here for us to discuss? What can we do? I'm answering the question with the follow-up questions. Can we engage that? Can we engage Islamic worldview, feminist worldview, arguing the issue in on bills, which is public affairs, something belonging to us? So we have also the right to examine, to evaluate. It's not to support or not to support, but to evaluate, examine, because it does discuss about public discourse that may impact anyone, including us, including me, including everyone. So when, for example, Aida is talking about morality, morality, when it is brought into public discourse, it must be understood as public morality, meaning even brings it to Aida brings it as the Islamic philosophy, Islamic worldview, Islam, sorry for Muslim, but when it is brought into public, it's subject for examination, it's for critics. So they must be also, I think, be open when they use like everyone, yeah. I'm asking if we do this way. If we understand public space facilitated by democracy for everyone, we couldn't bring anything what we have, but when we bring it into public sphere, it subjects for examination by anyone. So when Islam would feel like what Ayla is doing, brings that discourse morality, Islamic morality, and I hate that they could do that, but we, whoever we are, not only Muslims, but anyone as the citizens of this country, subscribing to Indonesian democracy, should have the right also to examine. I don't agree with that. The reason why can we do that? This is what we could also do feminism. So, because they are all in public affairs, public sphere, whatever they do, any struggle they do, influencing the policy, any policy coming out, we like it or not, would be impactful to us. And so can we, can a scholar that way, like a problematizing, showing danger or the benefit, anything of any ideas being brought to a public by any exclusivist who let anyone bringing ideas to the public.
Sampai tambahin dulu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very challenging question. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course we do, Mas Anju. We can. But the way, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, of course. Yeah, as a scholar, because it's public issue. I think, yeah, in a democratic state, I think we can propose what we think is right. Yeah, from many perspective. Yeah, from Islamic perspective, from a secular perspective, from or even a combination of both, I think, or even from indigenous perspective. Yeah, I think, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. But we should make sure that the mechanism is safe, is equal for all, right? In our political system, there are also public hearings. Public hearings means that in the legislative, that the opponent and the proponent can have the right to argue for or argue against the aspiration. I think in that way we can debating each other. Yeah, in political space, or even in cultural space like this, yeah, I think, yeah, the problem is we have already had some stigmas and also prejudice. This is liberal, this is secular, this is Western Asian, for example, or these Islamists, they want to Islamize us, for example, or they want to, radicalize us. I think that's prejudice should be avoided. And it has happened actually during the process of the passing of the bill. For example, the National Commission of Women's Rights, invited dialogue with them, with political justice party, for example, to debating each other, to examine the ideas, for example. Yeah, it's really possible. But yeah, when it comes to political things, sometimes it's very pragmatic. When it comes to political matters or political things, like sometimes like you have to fight. You have to fight, for example. So you want to looking for a political alliance to make it goals, to make it pass, for example. But as an ideals, I think it is possible. Yeah, because it's public issue, so yeah, everyone from regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their religious identity and affiliation, I think have the right to to evaluate or examine public ideas. I think that's hopefully answers your question. Thank you, Mas Anjo.
Boleh.
Boleh.
Halo Mas Ampi, Okay. Uh, Ya, Mas Afif mau nanya, I'm sorry, I was trying to raise several questions. The first is, did I against all feminist issue or only the debate on sexual regulation issue? And because if I see the Instagram, for example, on your site, it's like they talk about sex and only sex. You know, like they have no other issue. The content narrative publication is content narrative or the content narrative of feminism publication is more than campaigning their own value. So what they campaign is how to find feminism, not to produce and reproduce their value. So they start from that. And the third question, Ayla, woman activist, did you look at Ayla, woman activist, as woman movement or women as part of Ayla ideology? Because I don't see Ayla as women movement. It is like a family-based movement. So did you look at it under policy? For me, I do support the right to speak of every woman. So while they aspire very much for the domestic role, they choose to be in public to express their opinion. So at that part, I do agree of what they do. So that's my concern. Thank you, Mas Afif.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. For the first question, I think, yeah, for the perspective of counter movement theories, yeah, I think, yeah, it is plausible. It is plausible. Why do they only respond to feminist challenge? Yeah, because they are under a threat. So they have like to make a counter movement.
Their only agenda to make a counter movement rather than sharing their
Yeah, their value is, what do they counter? what they do to counter, yeah, movement, because they are under a threat. Yeah, they are under a threat. They are responding to a feminist challenge and feminist advocacies. So that's why they are responding to that. So that's why I call it as a counter movement. Yeah, of course, they share their values by, you know, educating ibu-ibu pengajian, majelis taklim, for example. But what do they campaign is, yeah, feminism is bad and feminism is blah blah blah. But again, we cannot, you know, for example, demonize. They still have their own agency. From my perspective, they still have like a capacity to act. So that's why we cannot. It is insufficient to use the theory of Western liberal agency to understand this movement, because from the perspective of Western liberal feminist agency, they are, you know, living under false consciousness, for example. They are not. So again, from the perspective of a counter movement, so that makes sense. Do you see it as women rights movement? Yeah, it depends. It depends on the definition. It depends on the definition that we are using. What is the definition of women's movement? Yeah. So I follow the definition by Amrita Basu. So I define women's movement as it is defined by their constituencies, namely women. So because their constituencies are women, so that's why I call it as women's movement. But yeah, they may address a variety of goals. Yeah, whether it is women's empowerment or even anti-feminism, where the idea of feminism, feminist movement, yeah, of course, they always challenging gender inequality, but its constituencies can be male or female. So I very, define it as a general definition of women's movement. So again, it depends. But according to you, it is not worth to call it a women's movement. Yeah, yeah, that's up to you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, maybe one last question or comment. Mas Jo. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Nastafi. Great. I just wanted to ask about more of the political approach of this group ILA. In particular, your research in 2019, they may not have been very effective in the sexual violence bill, but if them or someone else was effective in the criminal codes revision from last year, which made sex outside of marriage illegal. So do you think, was ILA involved in this movement to try to reform criminal codes? Because that's one of their issues, right? Consensual sex outside of marriage illegal. Were they involved? Were they effective? Or who was effective? Because even though the majority of people may not support ILA effective, from this perspective, you could say maybe ILA won or was politically effective or someone on their side. So how does that fit with the kind of landscape of political activism on sex and gender? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they do involve in their struggle to outlaw consensual sex outside marriage, but it failed. It failed in, I think, in 2016. Yeah, in 2016 it failed to expand the scope of the penal code on immoral offense. And mainly what they're struggling for in the context of politics is fail. So yeah, I don't know how to explain that. Maybe it's
It was successful. Yeah. Am I wrong? Law last year, 2022 law on
KUHP itu iya lolos nggak sih? KUHP-nya tuh lolos nggak sih? KUHP iya gede kayaknya.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you mean for the new revision of penal code?
Yeah.
Okay. I think. Yeah. So yeah. I mean during at the constitutional court, it failed, but with the coming of new revision of the penal code, so it is included. Right, it is included. It's very controversial. I don't know. Sorry, what's your question?
I mean, would you say they or someone else successful in their approach? Seeking to support their approach to
whether their approach is successful?
Yeah, whether ILA was involved in this.
Oh.
right?
Oh, right.
Someone would.
Right. Okay, right. I don't know. For sure, I don't know who are involved in the revision of the penal code. Maybe it is included, but yeah, for sure it's beyond my research. I don't know whether they are involved or not. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's a very interesting discussion that we have today. So please give applause again from Facebook. Okay, so I think that's the end of our Wednesday forum. Thank you so much, Mas Ali, for your presentation, and it's kind of like a good reflection for us that this from top to toe, there's a lot of discourse going on in this body. So yes, for us, for our self-reflections overall. So yeah. So yeah, for the next Wednesday forum is still to be announced. Yes, it's still a surprise. Yeah. Okay.
Hanis from ICRS.
Oh, Mbak
Hanis.
from ICRS. Yeah. Okay. Huh?
On gender issues.
About
on gender issues as well.
Oh, of course, on gender issues as well. So yeah, be prepared for your feminist characters to coming out to you. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. So thank you so much. See you again next week. Thank you. Oh yeah, Mas don't go anywhere. We have something. Pak Mike. Mike aja Pak Mike.
Okay.
Mas Asfi, thank you for your riveting and good discussion. This is
Nah. Oh boleh. Ya.
yeah. So.